Welcome to a profound discussion between two influential figures in modern philosophy. On one side, we have Viktor Frankl, Holocaust survivor and the founder of logotherapy, who argues that life has inherent meaning, even in suffering. On the other side, we have Albert Camus, philosopher of the absurd, who asserts that life is meaningless, and our role is not to search for meaning, but to live fully despite the absurdity. Viktor, let's begin with you.
Thank you. For me, the question of meaning is not a mere intellectual puzzle. It is a matter of survival. In Auschwitz, where human suffering seemed limitless, I found that those who held on to something greater than themselves, be it love, a future task, or dignity, were more likely to survive. I experienced firsthand how even in the depths of unimaginable suffering, meaning could be found. It is not suffering itself that gives meaning, but how we respond to it. In that response, we choose meaning.
I respect the strength it took to survive Auschwitz, Viktor, and I understand why you might search for meaning in that horror. But my experience leads me elsewhere. I grew up in Algeria, facing poverty and loss, and lived through a world devastated by 2 wars. In all of this, I've found the universe to be indifferent. The tragedies and sufferings we experience, they happen without reason. For me, the search for meaning is a futile endeavor. Life is absurd. The world offers no answers to the why. My revolt is not in finding meaning, but in rejecting the need for it altogether. We must embrace the absurd and live in defiance of it.
Albert, I understand your viewpoint, and I've seen the absurdity of life firsthand. But I cannot accept that this means life is meaningless. Even in Auschwitz, I witnessed prisoners rise above the absurdity through acts of love and selflessness. There was one man who, knowing he was going to die, chose not to steal food from others. He retained his dignity to the very end. To me, that act was more than rebellion. It was evidence that meaning can exist, even in the face of the absurd. This man's choice wasn't just survival. It was an acknowledgement of a deeper purpose, even if it wasn't readily apparent.
I understand the power of that choice, Viktor, but I see it differently. What you call meaning, I call rebellion. That man didn't find meaning in his suffering. He simply refused to let the absurdity of his situation dictate his actions. His dignity was an act of defiance against the universe's silence. You say there is meaning to be found, but to me, the beauty lies in the fact that he acted despite the lack of meaning. We are all, like Sisyphus, condemned to push the boulder uphill endlessly. I imagine Sisyphus happy, not because he finds meaning in his task, but because he embraces the absurdity of it. His freedom lies in that acceptance.
I see where you're coming from, Albert. But to me, choosing how we respond to suffering is more than rebellion. It's a way to uncover meaning. I recall a moment while I labored in the freezing cold. I thought of my wife, not knowing if she was alive, but her image gave me strength. That love transcended the absurdity of my situation. It was more than a choice. It was meaning itself. We don't create meaning in a vacuum. We discover it through love, responsibility, and the way we face our hardships.
That love gave you strength, Viktor, but did it give the universe meaning? You found personal purpose in thinking of your wife, but the world remained indifferent. I don't reject love, work, or even responsibility, but I reject the idea that these things give life inherent meaning. We love, we struggle, we work, all without the need for some grand purpose. For me, freedom comes from accepting that life has no higher meaning. By living fully in the face of this absurdity, by rebelling against the need for meaning, we find our freedom. Life's struggle is enough. It doesn't require a cosmic justification.
Yet, Albert, without meaning, what motivates us to go on in the face of suffering? If everything is absurd, what keeps us from slipping into nihilism? Meaning, for me, isn't an illusion. It's what allows us to transcend our circumstances. When I thought of my wife in Auschwitz, I wasn't just rebelling. I was connecting to something greater. Love, work, and responsibility offer us something deeper than just existence. They give us purpose.
You speak of meaning as if it's something to be uncovered, but I see it as a construct we impose on an indifferent universe. That's not nihilism, it's freedom. I choose to live fully, love fully, and embrace life without needing it to offer meaning in return. I find my freedom in rejecting imposed meanings, whether religious, philosophical, or societal. We act not because life has purpose, but because we've accepted that it doesn't. The absurdity of life liberates us, allowing us to create our own experience without the burden of meaning.
I respect your rejection of imposed meaning, but I believe that true freedom lies not in abandoning meaning, but in the responsibility to seek it. In suffering, we are called to find purpose, even if it's difficult. The freedom to choose how we respond is what gives life its depth. Meaning isn't a burden, it's a gift.
And yet, Victor, I find the gift in the act of rebellion itself. We may not need meaning to live passionately. The struggle itself, the experience of life without expecting answers, that is enough for me. To live fully in the face of absurdity is to be free.
As we wrap up, we're left with two powerful perspectives. Viktor Frankl finds meaning in suffering, believing it's our responsibility to discover it, while Albert Camus argues that life is absurd and true freedom comes from accepting that there is no inherent meaning. So, which path resonates with you? Do you find meaning in Frankl's purpose-driven approach, or are you drawn to Camus' idea of embracing life without needing meaning? Or maybe there's wisdom in both. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Which philosophy speaks to you? Share in the comments below and let's keep the conversation going. If you enjoyed this debate, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more thought-provoking content. We look forward to hearing from you.